Before we dive into this chilling tale of ancient secrets and forbidden knowledge, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support is what allows us to continue bringing these unsettling stories with such frequency. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next exploration into the unknown. Now, prepare yourself for what you're about to discover. Humanity has always been defined by its curiosity, our relentless drive to uncover what lies hidden, to illuminate the darkness, to know what we are not meant to know. But some secrets were buried for a reason. Some doors were sealed shut to protect us from what waits on the other side. I'm about to tell you the story of how I learned this lesson too late. You know that feeling when the news hits differently at 3 a.m., when your brain's too tired to filter fiction from reality and everything feels possible, even the impossible. I was sprawled on my couch, laptop balanced precariously on my chest, pretending to work on my dissertation about underground water systems in the Sahara. In reality, I was doom-scrolling through news sites, my eyes burning from the blue light of the screen, my veins coursing with enough caffeine to power a small city. That's when I saw it, a headline that would change everything. The CNN ticker scrolled past. Egypt indefinitely bans archaeological research in pyramid subterranean tunnels. And beneath it, in smaller text, government cites security concerns. I nearly choked on my energy drink. Security concerns for a bunch of tunnels that had been mapped and remapped since the 1800s. Tunnels that thousands of tourists had shuffled through, taking selfies and leaving behind nothing more dangerous than footprints and the occasional piece of gum. It didn't make sense, but it triggered a memory, something my professor, Dr. James Beckham, had mentioned just 3 weeks earlier. His face had gone pale when I'd asked about the new excavation permits for the western shaft of the Great Pyramid. "Some things are better left buried, Alex," he'd said, his voice uncharacteristically grave. Which was weird, because Beckham was the guy who'd spent 6 months analyzing a single pottery shard, if it meant advancing human knowledge by even the smallest increment. He was an academic to his core, a man who believed that information should be free, that knowledge was sacred. For him to suggest that some discoveries should remain hidden, it was like hearing a priest renounce God. I clicked through to the BBC article, hoping for more details, but it was just as vague, citing recent incidents involving unauthorized entry attempts and unexplained disturbances. The article claimed the closure was about protecting both archaeological heritage and public safety. Public safety from what exactly? My phone buzzed, pulling me from my thoughts. A text from my roommate, Tommy. "You see the Egypt thing? Thought of your pyramid obsession." I typed back, "Yeah, weird, right? They're being super secretive." 3 dots appeared, then, "My uncle works consular in Cairo, says they found something. Won't say what, but he's scared." I sat up so quickly my laptop nearly slid to the floor. Tommy's uncle wasn't the type to spook easily. Former Marine, worked embassy security before the consular transfer. If something in those tunnels had shaken him. Another text from Tommy. He said something about living architecture, whatever the hell that means. Also, don't repeat this. He could lose his job. Living architecture. I'd heard that phrase before in one of Beckham's more esoteric lectures about ancient construction methods. But he'd been talking metaphorically about buildings that seem to grow organically from their environments, that respond to and reflect the natural world around them. He hadn't meant it literally. Had he? I opened a new browser tab and started digging deeper. Reddit already had a thread going. Our mystery eating up every scrap of information. Most of it was conspiracy garbage, the usual mix of alien theories and Illuminati nonsense. But one comment caught my attention, from a verified archaeologist. "I was there when they sealed the western shaft. Trust me, this isn't about tourism revenue." Western shaft. That wasn't on any public map I'd seen. I spent the next 4 hours falling down research rabbit holes, academic papers, satellite imagery, declassified government documents from the 1970s. The more I read, the less sense it made. The Egyptian government had always been protective of the pyramids, sure, but this felt different. This felt like panic. By dawn, I'd made a decision that would change my life in ways I couldn't imagine. I was going to Cairo. Not for my dissertation, not for academic glory, but because something was very wrong beneath those pyramids, and I needed to know what Egypt was so desperate to hide. I didn't realize then that some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. 3 weeks later, I was standing in the customs line at Cairo International Airport, holding a tourist visa and a story about wanting to photograph authentic ancient Egyptian architecture. My heart hammered against my ribs as I approached the counter, certain that my true intentions were somehow written across my face in neon letters. The customs officer barely glanced at my documents, stamping my passport with practiced indifference. If only he'd known what I was really planning to do, he might have sent me on the next flight home. Instead, I collected my bags and stepped into the oppressive heat of an Egyptian summer, ready to uncover the truth about what lay buried beneath the Great Pyramid. I was about to discover that some truths are forbidden for very good reasons. Cairo hit me like a furnace, but I'd expected that. What I hadn't expected was the way the city felt wrong. Not in the usual tourist-overwhelmed way. This was different, subtle, like the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. I took a taxi from the airport, a driver named Mahmoud, who spoke excellent English and kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror with an expression I couldn't quite read. "First time Egypt?" he asked, as we navigated the chaos of afternoon traffic, horns blaring, pedestrians darting between cars with death-defying confidence. "Yeah, here to see the pyramids." I tried to sound like just another tourist, another American with a camera and a bucket list. His hands tightened on the wheel, knuckles whitening. "Stay with tour groups these days, not safe alone." "Why, what's happening?" I leaned forward, trying to keep my voice casual despite the sudden acceleration of my pulse. Mahmoud shrugged, but his shoulders stayed tense, his eyes fixed too rigidly on the road ahead. "People see things, hear things near the old stones, especially at night." "What kind of things?" I pressed. He was quiet for so long, I thought he wasn't going to answer. Finally, he spoke, his voice lower, as if afraid of being overheard despite the taxi's closed windows and the roar of traffic outside. "My brother Ahmed, he worked security near the pyramids. 3 weeks ago he come home. Different. Won't say what happened. Now he pray all day, all night, won't even look toward Giza." My pulse quickened, but I kept my voice casual. "Must have been something pretty intense. Ahmed, he tough man. 20 years army, Iraq veteran." Mahmoud nodded grimly. "But whatever he... see?" He shook his head, leaving the sentence unfinished. "Did he say anything at all about what happened? He say the stones remember things, old things, waiting things." Mahmoud made a subtle gesture with his right hand. Warding off evil, I realized. We pulled up to my hotel, the Nile View, a mid-range place in Zamalek that I'd chosen for being close to both the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and the American Embassy, just in case. I paid Mahmoud and was about to get out when he grabbed my wrist, his grip surprisingly strong. "American," he said quietly, his eyes meeting mine directly for the first time. "You want advice? Go see the Khan el-Khalili Bazaar, buy souvenirs, take photos of the Sphinx, but don't ask about tunnels. Don't go looking for holes in the ground." He released my wrist and drove off before I could respond, leaving me standing on the sidewalk with my suitcase and a growing sense of unease. My room was on the 5th floor with a view of the Nile, the ancient river, flowing serenely past as it had for millennia, indifferent to the civilizations that rose and fell along its banks. After unpacking, I sat on the bed and pulled out my laptop. Time to contact Dr. Beckham, see if he could shed any light on what was happening. But when I tried to call him via Skype, the connection failed. His email auto-reply said he was on extended sabbatical. That was wrong. Beckham never took sabbaticals. He lived for his work, often joking that vacations were for people who enjoyed life outside the library. In 20 years of teaching, he'd never taken more than a long weekend. I tried calling the university. The department secretary, Mrs. Patterson, sounded flustered when I asked about him. "Oh, Alex, Dr. Beckham is indisposed, personal matter." "When are you returning from your vacation?" I asked, deliberately casual. "It's research, actually, about those pyramid tunnels that were sealed off. Can you—" "Alex," her voice became sharp, cutting me off. "Listen to me carefully. Stay away from that subject. Dr. Beckham was very clear before he left. Some research paths should be abandoned." She hung up before I could respond. My stomach twisted into knots. Beckham had gotten scared and run. But scared of what? I grabbed a jacket and headed out. Time to do some ground-level research. The streets of Zamalek buzzed with evening life, cafes filled with locals and tourists, street vendors hawking everything from fresh juice to knockoff designer watches. But I noticed something odd as I wandered, asking casual questions. People avoided certain topics when I tried asking about the pyramids. Shopkeepers became evasive. Tour guides changed the subject. It was like the whole city had collective amnesia about recent events. I found an internet cafe and started digging deeper. Using VPN software I'd brought specifically for this trip, I accessed some academic forums that required university credentials. That's where I found the first real clue, a deleted thread from a restricted Egyptology forum captured by an archive site before it vanished. The original post was from someone called Desert Watcher and dated 2 months ago. Third excavation team reported missing near the western shaft. Official story is equipment failure, but I know one of the archaeologists. He called his wife before disappearing, said the tunnels talked to them, said it was shaped like a melody they'd never heard. Responses below were mostly deleted, but a few fragments remained. My team found similar resonances in deleted. The echo patterns don't match any known acoustic. Deleted. Check the geological surveys from 1923. They found the same. Deleted. And then at the bottom, a single undeleted response from a verified account. "Stop posting about this. People are watching, people are listening, they know." The poster's profile showed he was a professor emeritus at Oxford, specializing in ancient Near Eastern archaeology, Dr. William Thornbury. I knew that name. He'd written several papers that Beckham had referenced in his own work. I looked up Thornbury's recent contact information and tried calling him. The phone rang once, then a recorded message. "This number is no longer in service." Back at my hotel, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The desk clerk smiled too widely when I asked for my key. The elevator operator kept looking at me through the reflection in the doors. Even my room felt wrong, like someone had been through my things. Though nothing was missing, I pulled out my notebook and started connecting dots. Excavation teams missing, tunnels that sang, academic experts vanishing or going silent. The Egyptian government's sudden, ironclad secrecy. One thing was becoming clear: whatever was happening beneath the pyramids, it was happening now. Recent, urgent, and tomorrow I was going to find out what it was. But as I tried to fall asleep, I could swear I heard something, a low humming, almost like singing, coming from somewhere far below. Just before midnight, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Welcome to Cairo, Alex. Some walls should never be broken. Some doors should stay closed. Pleasant dreams." I stared at the message until the screen went dark. Someone knew I was here, someone knew why I'd come. And despite every instinct screaming at me to leave, I knew I was already too deep to turn back now. I woke to someone knocking on my door. The clock read 5:47 a.m. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in a hotel uniform, but something felt off. She wasn't looking directly at the door. Her gaze kept drifting to the side like she was listening for someone else. "Housekeeping," she called softly, her voice barely audible. "I don't need anything, thanks," I replied, not opening the door. She knocked again, more insistently. "Special message for Mr. Peterson." My name was Richardson. I grabbed the hotel phone and called the front desk. "Did you send someone up? For housekeeping this early?" A pause. "No, sir. Our staff doesn't begin until 7 hours. By the time I looked through the peephole again, she was gone. I didn't try to go back to sleep. After a quick shower, I headed downstairs. The desk clerk was different from yesterday. A thin man with nervous hands who wouldn't make eye contact. He kept glancing at a piece of paper beside his keyboard. "Good morning. I'd like to arrange a tour to the Giza pyramids," I said, testing the waters. "Very sorry, sir. Tours cancelled today. Government directive, all tours to Giza complex." He nodded repeatedly, his eyes darting to the paper. "Maybe tomorrow." I walked outside and caught a taxi. "Khan El Khalili Bazaar," I told the driver. But once we were moving, I changed my mind. "Actually, take me to the Egyptian Museum. I need to research something." The driver shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Museum is difficult today. Perhaps better tomorrow." What was it with everyone saying tomorrow? "Just take me." "There, please." The Egyptian Museum looked normal from the outside, but when I tried to enter, a security guard stepped in front of me. "Closed for maintenance." "The sign says you're open until 5 Yuan p.m. I pointed out. "Sorry. Emergency maintenance." His hand rested on his holstered weapon, a not-so-subtle suggestion that I shouldn't press the issue. I walked around the building, studying the windows. Through one, I saw lights on and people moving around inside, not maintenance workers, but archaeologists and scientists working frantically on something. Time for a different approach. I found an internet cafe in Heliopolis and spent the next 3 hours researching. Using my university access, I dug into geological surveys, ancient construction records, anything that might give me insight into what lay beneath the pyramids. What I found made my palms sweat. A 1923 British excavation report mentioned anomalous acoustic properties in the pyramid's lower chambers. The expedition leader, Colonel Henry Fairfield, wrote, "The tunnels produce sounds that should not be possible given their structure. More concerning are the reports from local workers of responsive echoes, sounds that seem to answer when called to." The surveyor added a handwritten note. Workers refused to take measurements below 43 meters depth. Claim equipment sings back to them. Most intriguing was a 1992 paper by Dr. Hassan al-Rashid about underground water systems near Giza. In his conclusion, he wrote, "Further excavation in the pyramid substructure should proceed with extreme caution. The bedrock shows signs of deliberate modification extending far below any known Egyptian construction. Some formations appear to be designed for containment." Containment of what? I tried calling Dr. al-Rashid. The number was disconnected. His university said he'd retired suddenly 3 years ago and moved abroad. No forwarding information. Back at the hotel, I noticed the same woman from this morning sitting in the lobby. She was reading a newspaper, but hadn't turned a page in 5 minutes. When I approached the elevator, she folded the paper and left. In my room, I found my notes had been moved. Nothing missing, but definitely rearranged. Someone had been through my belongings, carefully, professionally. My phone rang, unknown local number. "Hello," I answered cautiously. "Mr. Richardson." The voice was elderly, cultured, with a slight British accent. "You're asking dangerous questions." Who is this? Someone who's seen what you're looking for. Meet me at the Café Riche in downtown Cairo. 1 hour, come alone. The line went dead. Café Riche turned out to be an old establishment, the kind of place where intellectuals and journalists had gathered for decades. I found an elderly man in the corner wearing a faded linen jacket. He gestured me over. Dr. William Thornbury, he introduced himself, though officially, I'm dead. The Oxford professor, whose number had been disconnected. How? Questions later. Listen carefully. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. 3 months ago, the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities called me for consultation. They'd found something below the Great Pyramid, not a chamber, not a tunnel, something that shouldn't exist. He pulled out a folder of photographs. The images were grainy, taken in low light, but I could make out stone walls with impossible curves, passages that seemed to fold in on themselves. These tunnels predate the pyramid by millennia, Thornbury continued. The Egyptians didn't dig them. They built around them, sealed them. Sealed what in? Not what. Who? My mouth went dry. What do you mean, who? The excavation teams reported signs of habitation. Ancient but not empty. The tunnels showed evidence of modification, recent modification. Someone had been living down there, extended periods, generations possibly. He showed me another photo, scratch marks on walls that looked almost like writing, but in no script I'd ever seen. The song you've been hearing about, it's real. The tunnels are acoustically designed, perfect sound transmission like a communication system. Communication with what? With what lives down there? I stared at the photos. That's impossible. Is it? Ancient Egypt was built on mysteries we still don't understand. Maybe some mysteries exist to stay hidden. He gathered the photos. The government sealed the tunnels with concrete and steel 3 weeks ago, but it's not holding. The singing started again 2 days ago. And now what? Now things are coming up. Things, people, changed people. They speak ancient Egyptian, but their eyes, he shuddered. They know things, secrets, names. Dr. Beckham tried to warn me, didn't he? My pulse hammered in my ears because he called me before he disappeared. Said they were coming for him. The ones who'd been below said they recognized him from his research. Where is he now? Gone, like the others, like anyone who gets too close to the truth. Thornbury glanced nervously at his watch. I've stayed too long already. They'll be watching. They're always watching. Who's watching? The government? The government is just as afraid as we should be. They're trying to contain it, but it's too late. The doors are open. They're coming through. Who is they? Thornbury leaned in closer. The original builders. The ones who were here before us. Before Egypt. Before civilization. They've been waiting down there in the dark, waiting for someone to break the seals, to let them back in. Back into what? Our world. He stood abruptly. I've told you too much. They'll know. They always know. Wait, I grabbed his arm. How do you know all this? Why are you telling me? His eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of fear and resignation. Because I was there when they opened the western shaft. I saw what came out. And because you're already marked, they know your name, Alex. They've known it since before you were born. With that cryptic statement, he pulled away and hurried out of the cafe, leaving me with more questions than answers and a growing sense of dread. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, trying to make sense of Thornbury's claims. Part of me wanted to dismiss it all as the ravings of a paranoid old man, but the evidence was mounting. The sealed tunnels, the missing researchers, Beckham's disappearance, the strange behavior of everyone in Cairo. As night fell, I made a decision. If I wanted answers, real answers, I needed to see the pyramids for myself. Not as a tourist, but as an investigator, I needed to find the western shaft. Getting to Giza after dark wasn't easy. Tours were cancelled, Taxis refused to go, and security around the complex had been doubled. But I'd spent years studying archaeological sites, including their security protocols. I knew there would be blind spots, gaps in the coverage. I found one near the southern edge of the complex, where the fence met an old maintenance building. The lock was simple enough to pick, a skill I'd learned not for breaking and entering, but for accessing locked storage rooms in underfunded university archives. The Giza Plateau at night was eerily silent. The Great Pyramid loomed against the starry sky, a massive shadow that seemed to swallow the light around it. I moved carefully, staying low, using the smaller structures for cover. My goal was the western side of the Great Pyramid, where, according to my research, the sealed shaft should be located. I found it more easily than expected, a massive concrete plug set into the base of the pyramid, reinforced with steel bars, fresh concrete, still slightly lighter than the ancient stones around it. But what caught my attention wasn't the seal itself, but the sounds coming from behind it. A low, rhythmic humming, almost like chanting, but not quite human. It pulsed through the stone, through the ground beneath my feet, resonating in my chest cavity. And as I stood there listening, I could swear it changed, adapted, as if responding to my presence. I pressed my ear against the concrete, straining to make out any pattern in the sounds. That was my mistake, because as soon as my skin touched the seal, the humming stopped. Complete silence fell, heavy and oppressive. Then, from the other side of the concrete, came a sound that froze my blood. A voice, ancient, dry, like sand sliding over stone, spoke a single word. Alex. My name. It knew my name. I stumbled back, heart pounding, as hairline cracks began to appear in the concrete seal, thin fissures spreading outward like a spiderweb, accompanied by a high-pitched keening that made my teeth ache. I ran, blind panic propelling me back the way I'd come, not caring about security or cameras or being caught. All that mattered was getting away from that voice, from the thing behind the seal that knew my name. I didn't stop running until I reached my hotel room, locking the door and pushing a dresser in front of it for good measure. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My phone showed 17 missed calls, all from unknown numbers. As I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to calm my racing heart, my laptop chimed with an incoming email from Dr. Beckham's account. The subject line, "They're coming for you next." The body of the email contained only an image, an ancient Egyptian hieroglyph I'd never seen before, depicting a figure half human, half something else, emerging from beneath the pyramid, and below it, a single line of text. "The door is open. They remember your face." I slammed the laptop shut, but it was too late. The humming had started again, not from outside, not from the pyramids miles away, but from inside my own head. A melody I'd never heard before, yet somehow knew by heart. They were coming, and they knew exactly where to find me. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that voice saying my name, felt the vibrations of that ancient melody resonating through my bones. By dawn, I was sitting by the window, watching Cairo come to life below, wondering if anyone else could sense what was happening, if they could feel the wrongness spreading through the city like a disease. My phone had stopped ringing around 3 a.m. Now it sat silent on the nightstand, its screen occasionally lighting up with text messages I was too afraid to read. The dresser remained pushed against the door, though I knew it wouldn't stop whatever was coming for me. As the first rays of sunlight touched the buildings outside, I made a decision. I couldn't run. They'd already found me. I couldn't hide. They already knew my name, my face, my thoughts. The only path forward was through. I needed to understand what was happening, what had been unleashed, and if there was any way to stop it. I pulled out my laptop again, steeling myself before opening it. The hieroglyph was still there, that half-human figure emerging from beneath. The pyramid. I forced myself to study it, to analyze it with the detached precision of an academic rather than the terror of a hunted man. The figure wasn't emerging, I realized with growing horror. It was descending, going into the earth, not coming out. And the pyramid wasn't a pyramid at all. It was a doorway, a portal. I searched through my digital archives, comparing the symbol to every known hieroglyph in the Egyptian lexicon. Nothing matched. This was older, more primitive, pre-dynastic, perhaps even pre-civilization. A knock at the door made me jump. "Housekeeping," called a voice, the same woman from yesterday. "I don't need anything," I called back, my voice cracking. "Mr. Richardson." Not Peterson this time. She knew my real name. "You have a visitor in the lobby. Dr. Thornbury insists it's urgent." Thornbury. He'd been terrified yesterday, convinced he was being watched. Why would he come to my hotel, exposing himself? "Tell him I'll be right down," I said, not moving from my spot. He said to bring the photographs, all of them. I hadn't told anyone about the photographs Thornbury had shown me. I hadn't mentioned them to a soul. "I'll be right there," I repeated, reaching for my phone. I texted Tommy, "If you don't hear from me in 24 hours, contact the American Embassy in Cairo. Tell them to look for Alex Richardson at the Nile View Hotel. Tell them about your uncle's warning." Then I moved the dresser, opened the door, and found the hallway empty. No housekeeping, staff, no one at all. Just a small piece of papyrus on the floor with a single hieroglyph drawn on it, the same one from the email. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The ink was still wet. In the lobby, there was no sign of Thornbury. The desk clerk, yet another new face, told me no one had asked for me. No messages had been left. "Are you sure?" I pressed. "An elderly British man? Grey hair? Linen jacket?" The clerk's eyes widened slightly. "Sir, a man matching that description was found dead. 3 days ago in the Nile. It was in all the papers. Apparent suicide. 3 days ago? But I'd spoken to Thornbury just yesterday. I'd sat across from him at Café Riche, heard his voice, seen his face. Unless I hadn't. The realization hit me like a physical blow. What if what I'd seen hadn't been Thornbury at all, but something wearing his appearance? Something that knew things only Thornbury would know? "Sir, are you all right? You look pale." The clerk's concern seemed genuine, but I couldn't trust anything anymore. Anyone. "I'm fine," I managed. "Just surprised." I left the hotel in a daze, walking without direction, trying to make sense of what was happening. The streets of Cairo flowed around me, people going about their normal lives, unaware that something ancient and terrible had awakened beneath their city. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "The western shaft isn't the only way in. They built many doors. Find the map in the old library." The old library. The ancient library of Alexandria had been destroyed centuries ago, but its modern successor, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, housed many historical documents. It was worth a shot. I hailed a taxi and headed to the train station. Alexandria was a 2-hour journey north along the coast. As the train pulled out of Cairo, I felt a weight lifting, as if whatever presence had been stalking me was somehow bound to the city, to the pyramids. That illusion was shattered halfway to Alexandria when I went to the dining car. Sitting alone at a table was a man I recognized, the thin, nervous desk clerk from my hotel, the one who'd been there this morning. He looked up as I entered. Our eyes met, and he smiled, a smile that stretched too wide, revealing teeth that seemed too numerous, too sharp. I retreated to my seat, heart pounding. When the conductor came by, I asked if he'd seen a thin man in the dining car. "Dining car's closed today, sir," he replied, looking at me strangely. "Maintenance issues." But I'd been there. I'd seen it open, seen the tables, the people, the clerk with his impossible smile. By the time we reached Alexandria, I was jumping at shadows, seeing threats in every face. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina rose before me, a massive disc tilted toward the Mediterranean, its exterior inscribed with characters from every human language. Inside, I approached the special collections desk. "I'm looking for historical maps of the Giza Plateau," I told the librarian. "Specifically anything showing tunnel systems or substructures." She didn't ask for identification or credentials, which should have been my first warning. "We have something that might interest you," she said, leading me to a private research room. The map she brought was ancient, the papyrus fragile and yellowed with age. It showed the Giza Plateau not as it appeared today, but as it might have looked thousands of years before the pyramids were built. And beneath the plateau was an intricate network of tunnels, chambers, and what appeared to be a massive central space. "This can't be real," I murmured. "If this tunnel system existed, it would have been discovered centuries ago." "Unless it was deliberately hidden," the librarian said. "Unless those who found it chose to seal it away rather than reveal it to the world." I looked up sharply. Her eyes had changed. No longer human, but vertical slits, like a cat's or a reptile's. "Who are you?" I whispered. "A messenger," she replied, her voice taking on that same ancient quality I'd heard through the concrete seal. "A guide. We've been waiting for you, Alex. For someone who would listen, who would understand." "Understand what?" "That we were here first. That this world was ours before it was yours. That we were God's once and will be again." I backed toward the door. "You're not real. This isn't happening." "We are as real as the ground beneath your feet, as real as the air in your lungs. We have always been here, watching, waiting. And now, the time has come for us to reclaim what was taken from us. What do you want from me?" Her smile mirrored the Clarks from the train, too wide, too full of teeth. "You are the key, Alex. The opener of ways, the breaker of seals. It was always going to be you." I ran, out of the research room, through the library into the bright Mediterranean sunlight. But Alexandria had changed while I was inside. The sky was darker, the air thicker, and the people were all standing still, facing me, their eyes those same vertical slits. My phone rang. Tommy's number. "Tommy!" I gasped when I answered. "Thank God, you need to contact the embassy. Tell them, they're beautiful, aren't they?" Tommy's voice, but not Tommy. Something else using his voice, just as something had used Thornbury's face. "The old ones, the first ones, they've shown me such wonders, Alex. They can show you too. Just stop running. Accept your role." I hung up, fighting back panic. There was nowhere to go, no one to trust. The old ones, whatever they were, had infiltrated everything, everyone. As the sun set over Alexandria, casting long shadows across the ancient city, I found myself drawn to the shoreline. The Mediterranean stretched before me, dark and infinite. Perhaps there, in the depths, I could escape what was happening. But as I stood at the water's edge, I saw them, shapes moving beneath the surface. Not fish, not sharks, but something else, something ancient, something waiting. And I understood. Then what Thornbury, the real Thornbury, had tried to tell me. The tunnels beneath the pyramids weren't just passages, they were prisons. The Egyptians hadn't built the pyramids as tombs for their pharaohs. They'd built them as seals, as weights to hold down something that should never be allowed to escape. But now the seals were breaking, the doors were opening, and whatever had been imprisoned for millennia was free once more. I took out my phone and began recording this message. My final testament, my warning to the world. If you're hearing this, it means I failed. It means they've won. It means the old ones have returned to reclaim their world. Look to the ancient places, the pyramids, the ziggurats, the stone circles. They were never monuments. They were never tombs or temples or astronomical markers. They were locks on doors that should have remained forever closed. And now the keys have been turned. The doors stand open. And what waits on the other side remembers us, remembers you. They know your name. They've always known it. And soon, very soon, they'll come calling. Listen for the humming. Watch for the signs. And when you hear your name spoken in that ancient dry voice, run. Run as far and as fast as you can, though in the end I fear there will be nowhere left to hide.